Welcome to the lecture. I'm Cynthia McAllister. In this lecture, you'll learn about the writing share. The share is the soul of the Learning Cultures curriculum because it contributes to a sense of group cohesion, provides a way for each student to develop their academic identity and self-competence, and provides additional group instruction focused on competencies outlined in formal curriculum and learning standards. The share provides every student with, as one second grader put it, a chance to be smart. That's one reason why the share is not optional. Every student has the responsibility to share, and the share is a non-negotiable obligation. In this lecture, you will learn about the writing share format, including its primary aim and procedures. This lecture also includes a full description of the writing share format. There are two types of writing share formats within the Learning Cultures model, each described here: the whole class writing share and the writing table share. The primary aim of each writing share format is this: to provide the writer the opportunity to receive feedback about the effectiveness of their composition. How well did they achieve their intentions, and what strategies could they use to make their piece more effective? The share also allows participants the opportunity to develop critical insights about the dynamics of written genres. The writing share is a ritual activity that provides opportunity for students to learn large group discourse participation conventions as well. Class-wide procedures. Teachers should make a share calendar and try to provide each student an opportunity to share in the large group at least twice during the month at the elementary level and at least once monthly in middle and secondary classrooms. The calendar provides advance notice to each child so that they can prepare for the share in their turn. Students who are not prepared and who don't have a piece of writing in draft form should be held accountable. They should not be permitted to share, and their share should be rescheduled. If this behavior is a pattern, you should use the ladder of regulation so that students know there will be consequences to these actions. Sharing is an expectation of being a member of the community in a Learning Cultures classroom, and everyone is expected to participate. If students initially have difficulty sharing due to timidity or anxiety in the large group, the teacher or a fellow student can offer to stand with the student, reading or reporting his or her work while the child accompanies. This is the case even in extreme situations where timidity or oppositional behaviors might make sharing a challenge. Participating in the share practice becomes eventually emotionally pleasurable and over time has the effect of normalizing these behaviors. For example, in one sixth grade classroom where a child who was diagnosed with anxiety disorder fled the room in order to avoid his first share, his teacher read the piece of writing he was working on and solicited feedback from the class. Upon this child's return, while feedback was still in progress, the student was invited to sit in the share chair and hear comments about his writing. Later in the day, the child boasted to his special education teacher that he had shared, and at home that night he reported to his parents that he had the best day ever at school. Timidity is easily overcome because the share is a permanent fixture of the classroom culture and establishes an opportunity for the student to receive promotive and supportive feedback from peers. In a Learning Cultures classroom, sharing is a way of learning, an aspect of the ethos of the classroom. Students share in the large group, in the table share, and they also share in other informal ways. Every classroom has a writing gallery, typically in the hallway, and every student has a share space. They determine what pieces to share and when to share them. Teachers also create opportunities for students to share outside the formal sharing formats. Sharing just becomes part of the culture of a Learning Cultures classroom. It's a ritual that every student looks forward to. Procedures for the whole class share are as follows. 2 authors are scheduled in advance to share their writing. A teacher should post the writing share calendar so that students can prepare in advance. Presenting author convenes the class in a specified meeting area and establishes collective attention. Teachers should not convene the class or establish attention. This should be the student's responsibility. The teacher in the beginning of the year can coach the student into doing this, but the student should issue directives to classmates to come to the share and to attend to what they have to say. This builds legitimacy for student responsibility and encourages student independence and discourages teacher dependence. The author announces the intention of their writing and the type of feedback they seek. The author presents the writing on the document camera and reads it aloud. Once completed, the author solicits feedback by calling on volunteers to give feedback. This is important. The student and not the teacher solicits feedback. Also, teachers should refrain from giving feedback until students have had an opportunity. The teacher records feedback. During every share, the teacher should make sure that she or he takes down the comments given by the audience. Most teachers create forms for this purpose. The forms are then given to the student so that the student can incorporate feedback from the share into the draft of writing. The author ends the sharing turn by a ritual closing, typically something like "Thank you for listening to my share," and the audience response, "Thank you for sharing." The materials needed are a document camera, the student's text, and the writing share rubric. Students have 10 minutes each to read full drafts or excerpts of their writing and to receive feedback. The writing must be in draft form. The purpose of the share is to receive feedback that will advance the development of writing. Polished final drafts are not read in the share format. The person sharing sets up the share by briefly explaining the nature of the piece and the kind of feedback they seek. For example, "This is a story that's supposed to be funny, so I'd like feedback to make it funnier." Children in primary classrooms sit in front of the class and hold their piece as they read, showing pictures accordingly. Older students display their writing on the document camera as they read, and then move to the front of the room to take comments and suggestions. Comments can come either in the form of recommendations or commendations. And teachers, you shouldn't dictate which category students should provide. This makes the share comments artificial. The comments should flow organically from the intentions of the audience members. Aside from following into audience comments that might benefit from clarification, teachers should refrain from offering their comments and suggestions until students have had the opportunity to give remarks. Usually, audience members will attend to the same issues and concerns the teacher has. Teachers should follow the rules established for everyone else by raising their hand and waiting to be called upon. Demonstrating that format rules apply to everyone and are to be observed by all is a powerful way of securing these norms. This behavior also demonstrates that the author is in control of his or her own writing and of the process of seeking out insights to help in its development. Feedback is provided to the student so that it can be referenced to improve the writing in subsequent revisions. Some teachers also assign student recorders. Teachers should still record feedback even if a student recorder is used. The writing share has the added benefit of providing an opportunity for the whole class to practice civility, consideration, and empathy. And all students should be fully aware that there is a zero tolerance for ridicule, disrespect, or inattention. If the author is having difficulty sustaining audience attention, the teacher should follow in and coach the student in ways that re-secure attention. The teacher should never take over. Why is the share such a powerful mechanism for learning? The writing share is the most potent form of genre practice. Invoking the metaphor of a game, the share is the opportunity for students to invite participants into a game they have created, to get feedback on how the game is experienced and how to improve upon it. The share is an opportunity to make the purpose and intentions of a piece of writing known to the audience and to hear through feedback about how effectively they have achieved these intentions. The share allows students to practice what David Olson calls a meta-language for a subject at hand. A meta-language is a way to talk about a thing from a reflective stance, allowing abstract ideas or taken for granted ones, that tacit knowledge that you have about a certain thing, to be translated into concrete terms. Using meta-language is a way to exercise metacognitive and metalinguistic awareness, the awareness of how we think and how we use language. The share is another example of a learning culture's practice that contributes to the student's sense of self-competence. Just as learning conferences help the student dissect global competencies into isolated parts in order that they be fully appreciated and understood, the share also helps students develop self-competence and contributes to their growth or incremental theory of intelligence. By presenting pieces of their writing, students are forced to carefully scrutinize their efforts and have opportunities to better understand the moves they can make to improve their work. The writing share is a powerful learning opportunity for audience members as much as it is for the sharer, because everyone present has the chance to see how writing functions as an act of cooperative communication that can always be improved upon by adjusting the use of language and writing conventions to better facilitate the process. Because the share is such a powerful vehicle for literacy development, and because students enjoy the opportunity to share their writing, the number of these opportunities can be dramatically increased with the writing table share, during which one student shares a piece of writing with up to 4 other students. The writing table share procedures are similar to the whole class share procedures with a couple of alterations. Only one student shares a piece at the table share, and instead of displaying the piece on a document camera, copies of the piece are made in advance. Participants can be given the responsibility to read the piece in advance of the meeting. This is especially useful in upper grades when pieces of writing tend to be longer, or copies can be distributed at the table. In any case, the author should read their piece aloud, either the whole piece in its entirety, if it's a short one, or portions of a longer piece. The writing share is an opportunity for a student to share a piece of work and receive feedback. Table writing share calendars should also be prepared so that both writers and audience members have advance notice so that they can prepare. So let's summarize and review. In this lecture, you learned about the writing share. You learned about the primary aim and basic procedures of the writing share. Without referring back to the lecture, see if you can explain the logic of the writing share. Why is it conducted? What insights in students is it intended to develop?